talk about the coronavirus. People are wanting to ask me about that. So this whole thing boils down to, how dirty are you? How dirty is your physical body inside? Well, when we're talking about dirty or toxemia or sepsis or anything like that, what are we talking about? Infection. What are we talking about? And the first thing to our minds when you say infection and all these things like that, we think bacterium. We think bacterium. Right? And so that's how they got us thinking. There's got to be some microbial involvement which creates infection. And that couldn't be further from the truth. This is part of the problem. And I've said this before, the medical profession has been playing with the ass end of the donkey too long. There's a better view. And that's a view of truth. You cannot, as a species, eat outside of the realm of that species in terms of the types of foods that are created for that species. You cannot take them into another species that is as far away from it as you can get. In other words, the cat family, the carnivore family, is by far the furthest away from the Homo sapien of any species out there. You're taking a look at the omnivores and the herbivores, we're somewhere, we got a little of this and a little of that, but bottom line is when you take a look at a frugivore, and so anybody thinks that a primate's an omnivore is not living in reality. Primates are frugivores. It is no question a lot of them are eating omnivorish like humans. No question. Those primates that have access to fruit jungles, or where you have a lot of fruit trees, then that's what you see eaten, period. So you see a lot of things, in that way. But don't you think that creation is constantly improving itself? So why would we want to go back eating an inferior way, eating a more toxic way to us, as opposed to improving our way of eating, improving the way we understand ourselves physiologically and anatomically? And so we can put 1 and 1 and get 2 out of it. So, this is why we offer you the comparative analysis. And like I said, I took that chapter in my book to 2 veterinarians, 1 female and 1 male. I took that whole chapter and I said, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. You're veterinarians, you're medical doctors. Prove me wrong. And like I said, the female was the only one that came back and with anything. The other was a friend of mine, and he said, I don't know what to add. And the female said, how about beaks on omnivores? I said, forgot beaks on omnivores. So, and just the way we don't grind, just the way we are designed, we are a tropical to subtropical species at best. So, by trying to survive in a hostile environment for the Homo sapien, which is a northern, colder climate, we've had to do some adaptations. And of course, when you're in colder climates, there's no question that you're looking for more of a heavier amino acid hit. That's where you got to see the more heavier nuts. The further north you go, one of the theses that I had, my main thesis for my naturopathic degree was I can't remember what I titled it, but it was a geographical location of proteins and energetics and chemistry and that sort of thing. And I was showing that as we move away from the tropics and subtropics, the soils get more mineralized, the environment becomes more alkaline, but the foods that man eats becomes more acidic. And it's almost like it changes, where in the tropics man tends to eat more alkaline. Of course, in today's world where man is totally lost, you can argue that point, but still, as a rule, and especially if you're going back into the 17, 18, 1900s, that the difference. And then you compare the difference of longevity between those two, and it all is right there. It all comes back to the Homo sapien as a frugivore and as an islander species. Now, add to that the healing profession. All right, so let's take two people with breast tumors. Never had a biopsy or anything, so I thought excuse me, easier to deal with. Now we're going to put one on a high protein diet and see if we can cure her with that. The other one, we're going to put her on a fruit diet and see if we can cure her with that. So one gets a grape diet and one gets a meat diet. Who's going to die? For sure. Yep. You're right. The meat diet. And, you cannot consume the chemistry that you did that created this problem and not get out of it. Get out of it that way. You cannot do that. Chemistry is everything. You must go back to all levels of bubonic plagues, all these things that just freak humans out. Where did you see them happening? And who was the most affected? And you will always find the milk drinkers the most toxic, those that have the highest acidic diets, always the ones involved in that. Whether it's a poor class, middle class, or whatever. Notoriously hooked to the lower classes, but not can affect everyone. You just don't see it. And the whole thing is that man has never had a proper understanding of how his or her body works. Without the understanding of how life feeds and cleans, then you don't know what you're talking about. Because at every single level that there's two things that are always going on. Consumption and elimination. Always. I guess the medical community forgot the last word, elimination. And when you sit in a hospital for a week or two without a bowel movement, that is one of the big proofs of that. Oh, no big deal. No big deal. I had a client end up in one, and I ratted on them so bad, they finally ended up giving her an enema every day. You move her bowels every day. Every day, the clock is ticking. Every day, all those cells. Every night, all those cells. There is no time. And all those cells are constantly moving in and out of an energetic and an eliminative experience. Every cell in your body does the same thing as everything else on this planet. Everything in creation, at one level or another, at one chemistry look at another, or one magnetic look at another, you have consumption and elimination. Whether it's electricity or whether it is mundane chemistry. So you got to see, we're all vampires. We suck the life force out of that which we're eating and the carcass. The problem goes right back to what type of chemistry are you putting in your body? And when man thinks he can eat like an omnivore, but even worse, man eats worse than 95 to 98% of omnivores. In the wild, you don't see bears as omnivores eating a predominantly protein diet. You know why? Because they don't do well. They die, they get arthritic, they die. It breaks them down. It acidifies them. They don't do that. Matter of fact, how does the little protein they do eat, how do they buffer that? Veggies. Look at the grizzly bear. 65% of the grizzly bear's diet is sage grass. When you get way up into your carnivorish acting omnivores, like maybe hyenas or something, you got a really nasty, smelly, and a very brutal beast. You can see the attitudes and the whole atmosphere of a carnivore tied to the type of foods and chemistry that they're consuming, because everything is vibrational. The same thing. You feed a human meat, you can get a very unhappy, violent human. You feed a gorilla meat, and you better not be anywhere close to him. You'll never be, if a gorilla was a meat eater, you would never be able to walk up to him in the jungle. Let's put it that way. Anybody ever walk up on a lion in the jungle and say, "Hi, pretty little thing"? Don't think so. And you wouldn't do it on a primate either. So when you take a look at the types of foods and the magnetics and the types of emotions and feelings and chemistry that's given off with that, huge difference between a fruit diet and a meat diet. So when a Homo sapien goes rogue and decides to eat a paleo diet, his health goes down into the dumpsters, because it is an acid ash diet. And as we consume acid ash foods, as we drink milk way beyond the time that we're supposed to, you know, there's always controversy on how many years should you nurse feed, and then what age should you wean your baby. I'm saying 6 months to a year at most. Excuse me. In today's world, I've told you this before, we have babies in here, infants that cannot breastfeed, cannot tolerate mother's milk, and of course formulas send them out the roof. So they're on fruit juices from the get-go. Didn't kill them, still alive and getting better and stronger and looking, I mean, even doing better than the milks. Because at a certain point now, we have become so acidic and toxic that milk is so congestive and mucus forming. I'll show you. Anybody has a tumor, want to play a game, and you can see a tumor popping out on you? Drink some milk and eat some ice cream and watch the tumor. Is it going to shrink or is it going to grow? Now, do the same thing, but spend a week eating grapes and watch the tumor. Is it going to shrink or is it going to grow? If it grows, you're in trouble. So, as we acidify and we bring these toxic proteins, you know, we blame a fungal and we blame a bacteria for all the problems that actually are created by the proteins. And guess what category a virus fits into? A protein. So proteins magnetically are pulled and creates all kinds of havoc. Some are extreme in their ability to acidify and damage the body. But all viruses, proteins with an attitude, thrive in acidic mediums. That's the whole big deal. And you can know that for all of those that have herpes, but particularly in the mouth, the simplex, you will see that every time. Start sucking on something that's highly acidic, like an unripe pineapple or a lemon, and you should get a canker sore in your mouth. It's the same thing. And for those, even with genital herpes, you'll notice that when you go all raw, after you start getting a little clean and filtering, it all just goes dormant and starts to move away. You know that when you don't, you can get quite a load in you. So, the question is, what do we have to go after the coronas? It's important to realize that all proteins can damage cells. except for the harmonious type. But when you start consuming a diet of fruits and salads and veggies, you're not consuming proteins. You're consuming more amino acid blends. A world of difference between an amino acid and a protein structure. A protein structure is simply a structure of complex amino acids. It isn't the protein that the body can use. It's the amino acid. So, and the proof of it is when you consume a protein, what immediately does the body try to do to it? Break it apart. And because of protein, if you go to the three little pigs, what was the last structure that the poor wolf couldn't blow down? It was a brick structure, all laced and tied in. It's like a block wall versus a stud wall. Pretty easy to get a tractor and knock over a stud wall. Not so easy. You got to get a bigger one to hit the blocks. That's amino acid structures. So if I'm after amino acids, and this protein structure has them, this simple amino acid structure has them, I know that to get the same amino acids, hopefully, I'm going to have to tear that apart, rearrange the amino acid structures, and I'm going to need some help doing it. And enzymes are not enough to do this. Uh-oh. What are we going to need then? I'm going to have to go to the side of chemistry that rips things apart. And what side of chemistry is that? Acids. So now you have hydrochloric acid with a little below 2 pH, the same pH as chemotherapy, to rip apart proteins. So what is if I cut a piece of my arm off and show you, what would you call that? A protein structure. But I'm going to take a pharmaceutical that tears that structure apart. Why? Because I have a damaged cell in the structure from what? You see, the industry of this is gigantuous. So remember virals. Look at all the antivirals. I've personally never seen an antiviral, whether herbal or pharmaceutical, work. And furthermore, I've seen a lot of fatal events tied to pharmaceutical antivirals. You got to be careful with antivirals and antifungals in the medical world because they have a higher standard of fatal events happening to you. Means they'll flatly kill your butt, physically. I've been talking about this book a long time, and since I've been moving, I finally found it. This is Horowitz. All right? If you can get an emerging virus, for those of you that have HIV, don't get too upset. Because this is about, here, I don't know, it seems like it's been not that long ago, but it's been a while ago. There was a dentist that gave at least four of his clients AIDS, or HIV. He had HIV himself. But he did it on purpose. And so the FBI, they caught him and they arrested him. You know, he's in prison. And they, from the way the story goes, they hired Leonard, Dr. Horowitz, because they classified this dentist as a serial killer. And they wanted Horowitz, the way the story goes, I guess, to look into this and start to map out the profile of this guy to see what it, why and, why all this took place. Well, this led Dr. Horowitz on a journey in understanding the World Bank and understanding germ warfare and understanding what's going on in the world a little more. It led him to Bethesda Air Force Base. That led him, and you can read who the scientists are. He located a paper trail. He found out that dentist found out that the HIV virus was created on, I think, on Bethesda Air Force Base, was injected through the Hep B vac in Chicago, New York, LA. They got the years, they got the paper trail into humans. Into us. They also talk about the Ebola virus and how this originally was involved in germ warfare. I'm telling you, it is amazing to read this doctor's story about this emerging virus, and he gets into others, but take a read and know what they've been doing to us. So all I can say in my life, we've cleaned up a lot of HIV, we've cleaned up a lot of Hep C, we cleaned up a lot of herpes, both kinds, several kinds up here by now, I guess. There, in my humble opinion, is only one way to protect yourself from virals, or if you have a viral load. And that is to clean your environment and detox them out. These are proteins, and the only way to get rid of a protein, what are you going to take to kill a protein? There's nothing. You can only detoxify them out of the body. 1 minute. I apologize. It's one of those in and out days. But don't let the coronavirus or any virus that is created, I'm just saying, man created, you never know. It's like that Zika virus. And, you know, when you talk to those living in those areas, it wasn't until the vaccine occurred that the Zika virus occurred. So there is so much deceit and lies from a radical. I mean, the pharmaceutical companies are radical. Their labs experimenting on animals and humans, they're radical. When we already have, what, probably almost 10,000 years of recorded history of botanical use. You know, the problem, man thinks that he's okay and everything else is bad. And man's got to start turning it around. Even the Dalai Lama was commenting a little bit. They turn it around and realize who he is, she, and that humans have been part of the problem on the planet. All the other animals, all the other species are just riding along with this new species that is immature at controlling the mind and emotions, and that's the human. Don't fear, get strong. Load up and get it out of you. Those of you with HIV, those of you with Hep C, those with any viral load out there. Detoxification. You gotta understand that the body doesn't want things in it. It has the ability to get rid of it under only one side of chemistry. Now go back to the two sides of chemistry. If you create an acidic environment, anywhere, but in-house, inside the body, or outside, excuse me, what kind of environment is an acidic environment? It's an environment of coagulation, an environment where everything starts sticking together. Almost, you have two things occurring. You have several things, really. You have dehydration, you have burning, you have destroying, you have agglomerating. And all those words can be tied to the response of the human body to that side of chemistry. And that word that deals with the response of your body to a chemistry it doesn't want, or that the chemistry is going to hurt it, meaning the cells, because that's what your body is, nothing but cells. Your body's designed to deal with that. And that is all dealt with through the lymphatic system. All these acids, all these proteins, you don't think the blood's going to carry them. They're going to carry them to where they can dump them. Because compromising the blood pH with proteins would mean the death of the physical organism. And you can buy into the medical doctors, bicarbonate bull crap and all that. You know, these guys, they speak out of their mouth and they speak nothing but air. That's not what you see. Take a look around. You don't have to have some mad scientist paid by somebody to tell you it. Take a look at the effect. You can see the effect of different chemistry has on tissues. And an observed effect. So, and you don't want immune suppressors, you know, because when you're taking an immune suppressor, what system in your body are they suppressing? Your immune system, your lymphatic system. So you're stuck. And the more they suppress, the deeper your acidosis goes. They're only suppressing the numbers for you. Your viral load numbers. You notice how when you change medication or whatever, they come roaring back? Because they're using suppressants. They're not cleaning anything out for you. Pharmaceuticals don't get rid of. But they sure do pave the way and destroy cells more and pave the way for more involvement. That's why you get blowbacks after you come off of pharmaceuticals. Major blowbacks. And this is especially true with what? Steroid use. When you're suppressing the inflammatory response and not dealing with the item that is the inflammatory response, CYP, which is going to be a protein of some sort, an acid of some sort as a rule, and you suppress the inflammatory response, you're suppressing nature, God's natural response and defense mechanism to fight these things. It's like when you go up or you get a little cold air and you go into a cold and flu-like symptom. Anybody in today's world that doesn't know those are natural processes, you're going to live in with your head too far up somewhere where the sun doesn't shine. And medical doctors in this country are one of them. And at least your European medical doctors at least know to let cold and flus run their courses. You don't sit there and treat them with antibiotics and crap like that. Americans are slow to learn sometimes, particularly when it's allopathy. So you got to be careful. You know, everybody's used to running for the pharmaceutical, taking something, and those are the people that are in the worst shape ever. Of all those that I read to you and those that we deal with, 99.9% of them are at that deep level because of allopathy, not because of their problems or acidosis. It's because the allopathy and the treatment of that took them deep into Hellville. And it's time man wakes up to that reality, that fact. That the medical doctor isn't that the angelic being that you all thought it was. It is a killing machine. It is a cold killing machine. And it's used under the facade of, we're your best friends. We've got white shirts and stethoscopes. We're going to take care of your family and your baby. Matter of fact, bring me your newborn baby. I want to inject it full of chemicals. These are the people everybody's going to. And finding in a bad way, they don't know anything. They don't know how to cure. They don't know anything. They don't know the cause of things. Everything's an autoimmune, so we'll suppress the immune system, or we're going to suppress the lymphatic system even more. That's why all you skin people, when you start in this, it looks horrible. And my blessings to Shannon. She took it on, and she's fighting it. Psoriasis head to toe all her life. She's tried to keep it under control because she works and involved with people. And I know. So we sent her home a packing. You go home and you get this out of you now. And it isn't fun because you're talking about acids. And acids burn you. They burn. They destroy. All these viruses. You know, it's time man gets his power back, his governments back. It's time the people stand up and kick these people out of there and put some spiritual people to help control and oversee their lives. Because we have a planet that's just insane.